Tragedy on a downtown street during the morning rush hour. A cyclist fatally struck by a dump truck after exiting the bike lane. Good evening. A 24-year-old woman is dead after the collision on Bloor Street at Avenue Road.
While police are still piecing together what happened, other cyclists are sharing their grief. CTV John Musselman is live with an update. John.
Well, Nathan, as you know, this is a very busy area of the city, busy with cars, pedestrians, and cyclists. The question here today is, why was there a construction bin blocking part of the bike lane? A 24-year-old woman riding a city-operated bike share bicycle died at the scene after she was hit by a large dump truck. It happened just before 9 this morning.
That bicycle exited the bike lane and continued traveling westbound. At that same time, a dump truck was also traveling westbound, struck that cyclist.
The truck driver, a 39-year-old man, remained on the scene. Just meters ahead of the crash, a construction bin appears to be blocking the bike lane and part of the right-hand turn lane. Police say that will be part of the investigation. Cyclists in the area say they are constantly dealing with obstructed bike lanes.
The construction on Bloor is insane, and I use this route mostly every single day. And there's a lot of barriers. Like, it just feels like it's unsafe.
The cyclist calls the death heartbreaking for the family. She placed flowers on a tree near the scene.
Very frequently when I cycle along Bloor anywhere, there is an obstruction in the way that I need to navigate around. I'm a very experienced rider. I ride a motorcycle too, so I feel safe, but there's a lot of cyclists that are less experienced. There's a lot to pay attention to, and I fear that could have been a contributing factor for sure.
Michael Longfield is with an organization called Cycle Toronto, which promotes bicycle safety in the city.
This stretch of Bloor and Avenue beside us have seen a lot of changes in recent years, a lot of it positive. The fact that we have this bikeway here is really great, but any system, any chain is only as strong as its weakest link, and if we're not prioritizing keeping these bikeways safe and clear and accessible, then things like this are going to happen.
We contacted the city to ask about the positioning of this construction bin. Here is their response. Quote, the City of Toronto offers its deepest condolences to the family and friends of the cyclist who tragically lost her life in today's collision. While it is not clear what the investigation will find, the city is reminding residents and businesses of the importance of keeping bike lanes clear of any obstacles in order to help ensure the safety of all road users. And we can report that bin has since been removed from the bike lane and the right turn lane here on Avenue Road. The name of the victim killed here has not been released. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Okay, thank you, John. One person has suffered life-threatening injuries in a major crash in the northwest end of the city. Emergency crews are on the scene at Steeles and Steinway Boulevard, just east of the 427. The collision involved 3 vehicles and happened around 3:30. A man in his 30s was taken to hospital with critical injuries. Steeles is closed both ways in that area as the police investigation continues.
We have an update to a quadruple shooting that left 2 people dead in Scarborough yesterday.
Police have identified the victims of what they called a deadly gun battle in a plaza parking lot. CTV's Janice Goulding is in Scarborough tonight and joins us live with the latest. Janice.
Hi, Natalie. Yes, and the victims in this case were very young, just 22 and 23 years of age. Now, if you take a look behind us here, you'll see that friends and family of the victims have actually arrived on scene in the last few minutes. They came bearing flowers. They appeared very, very grief-stricken, although they would not speak to us on camera. There is no sign of the gunshots that were fired here early Wednesday outside a Scarborough bar. But there is no erasing the consequences of the gunplay. 4 people shot, 22-year-old Braden McCann killed, along with 23-year-old Sarah Perhay.
It's very sad, because it happened so close to home, and to see the young person being 2 or 4 people.
It feels so sad, how their parents, anybody can feel, the relatives, how they feel. I can't imagine.
Such young folks, and it's just horrible.
Yesterday, police said the deadly quadruple shooting, which took place just after 2:30 a.m. Wednesday, bore all the hallmarks of a gun battle. More than 50 shell casings found in the parking lot of the Ellesmere Road and Birkdale Road strip mall. Police have not released how many people or groups were involved at this point, but a handgun was retrieved at the scene. While 2 of the victims died from their injuries, 2 other people underwent emergency surgery. Now, the two surviving victims remain in serious but non-life-threatening condition in hospital. Police are asking anyone who may have witnessed anything to contact them. If they want to speak anonymously, they can also contact Crime Stoppers. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Natalie and Nathan.
Okay, thank you, Janice. Still ahead on CTV News, Loblaw agrees to pay out over its role in a price-fixing scheme. What the settlement will mean for anyone who bought bread.
But first, a check on the forecast. Here's a live look outside. Very comfortable, just a few clouds, and the next few days are looking great, especially if you want to be out on the water. Lots of sunshine is expected, no rain. Let's show you the current conditions through our satellite radar. You can see things are calm, just a few clouds to the north and a few pop-up showers northeast, but otherwise things are fine, nothing much. As for the winds, a bit coming from the north and from the west, light winds, but certainly not uncomfortable. And right now, things are seasonal. 24 degrees in Toronto, 23 in Port Hope, 21 in Georgina. Feels a little bit warmer because of the humidex, but otherwise things are fine. We'll give you a look at the long-range forecast a little bit later on in the show.
Submissions have now come to a close at the sentencing hearing for Peter Nygaard. A lawyer for the disgraced fashion mogul asked a judge today to sentence the now 83-year-old to 6 years behind bars, with time served that would mean less than 2 years in jail. Yesterday, the Crown asked for a sentence of 15 years. Nygaard was convicted by a jury last fall on 4 counts of sexual assault. It is expected the judge will deliver his sentencing decision next Friday. Nygaard is still facing similar legal action in Manitoba, Quebec, and the U.S.
Police have charged a dentist in Ajax with sexual assault, alleging he targeted a victim during her appointments. Durham police were called to a dental clinic on Roslyn Road on July 13th. A victim reported 36-year-old Sunil Kumar Patel from Ajax had touched her inappropriately on 2 occasions. Police say they're sharing an image of the accused amid concerns other potential victims may be out there. They note he also worked at a dental clinic on Lawrence Avenue East in Scarborough.
Toronto police have made multiple arrests linked to a carjacking investigation, but they are turning to the public for help finding one final suspect. Police say 19-year-old Nathan Glenn Osmond of Toronto was one of 2 people involved in a carjacking at gunpoint near Jane and Finch on July 8th. Yesterday, the hold-up squad executed 2 search warrants and arrested the other man accused in the incident, as well as 3 other suspects. They also face dozens of charges, including firearm violations and failure to comply with release orders. If you know where Nathan Glenn Osmond is, investigators are asking you to get in touch.
Toronto police are also looking for this man wanted in a series of thefts near Yonge and Dundas. Between June 20th and July 19th, it's alleged 22-year-old Mouye Alzgoul targeted 3 retailers a combined 13 times, making off with goods worth around $25,000 in total. Anyone with information is asked to contact police or Crime Stoppers.
The search for answers continues months after a deadly head-on crash on the 401 in April.
An update from Durham police is shedding more light on what happened prior to the crash. The new information came from Durham Police Board meeting on the status of current SIU investigations. It confirms an off-duty officer tried to intervene in a robbery at an LCBO in Bowmanville when the suspect pulled a knife and fled in a U-Haul van. The update also says officers lost sight of the U-Haul for a brief time before the suspect vehicle struck a cruiser and entered the 401 heading the wrong way. Officers pursued the suspect onto the highway, also going in the opposite direction of traffic. Minutes later, the suspect and 3 others, a baby and his 2 grandparents, were killed in the fiery crash.
Provincial police say 4 vehicles were hit when a wheel went flying off of a car on the highway outside of Barrie. OPP shared these images from this morning from the area of Highway 400 and Highway 88 in Innisville. They say the wheel did cause serious damage to other vehicles, but no injuries were reported in connection with the incident. Police noted that one of the wheel nuts became embedded in a windshield, reminding the public that it is always wise to retorque them as needed. Police say in this case, the driver's wheel came off soon after visiting his garage.
Pulling the plug on future flooding. Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow is asking city staff to look for ways to prevent what happened last week during the torrential downpour.
Chow says big commercial property owners will have to pay if they don't take action to reduce stormwater runoff. CTV's Siobhan Morris is at City Hall tonight with the details. Siobhan.
Well, we saw a rare bit of political consensus here at City Hall. We're only talking about a study right now, but in the last hour, city councillors agreed that they should take a look at what more big business can be doing to prevent flooding. A city overwhelmed by water, filling up highways, coursing through transit stations.
The item is amended, recorded vote.
City councillors have voted unanimously for a study by the end of the year on what can be done to prevent scenes like this, reviving the possibility of what was panned as a rain tax earlier this year.
Whatever you want to call it, we do have a lot of rain.
And Chow says the city needs a real plan to deal with it, and fast.
My strategy is not to start saying, pay us. No, because that doesn't do anything in terms of the homeowners.
Instead, focus on commercial and industrial properties with big expanses of pavement.
If you provide your service, make it more permeable, then you don't pay less, right? Whereas if you do nothing and your parking lot become parking lake, then you should take some responsibility.
Beefing up the city's sewer system will cost more than $4 billion over the next decade, an effort some councillors argue businesses aren't contributing to.
Right now, if you're taking your shower or washing your clothes, you're subsidizing a parking lot. And you're doing nothing to improve flooding.
She feels Toronto has catch-up to do in holding commercial property owners responsible.
If you pollute less, you pay less. That is the incentive. It's been proven to work in city after city all around the world.
Even though there's been resistance before,
I think in light of what's happened and with the recent flooding, I think that I think there'll be more support out there from the public as well.
for homeowners, the mayor wants to re-examine programs present and past to see what works best to keep water out of Toronto basements. When it comes to water flowing into the sewer system, city staff say that big business accounts for about half, but very few of those businesses are paying anything for flood mitigation. Reporting live from City Hall, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Coming up, the Canadian women pulled off a soccer win against New Zealand today amid an Olympic spying scandal. The latest on the fallout just ahead.
Loblaw and its parent company have agreed to pay $500 million to settle a pair of class action lawsuits. The settlement relates to the involvement of Loblaw and George Weston Limited in an alleged bread price-fixing scheme. CTV's Michael Couture reports.
The parent company of the largest grocery chain in Canada has agreed to pay out $500 million for its involvement in an alleged bread price-fixing scheme that lasted 14 years.
Yeah, if they're saying that they messed up, then good.
It's the consumers that have been paying for it, so they should be the one to be reimbursed.
In a statement, Galen Weston, the chairman of Loblaw and George Weston Limited, said this behavior should have never happened, adding, "We are sorry for the price-fixing behavior we discovered and self-reported in 2015. The following year, Weston Foods and Loblaw received immunity from prosecution in exchange for cooperating with the investigation. The lawyer leading the class action lawsuit says today's admission will help them go after other companies like Sobeys, Walmart, Metro, and others.
The moment a company like Weston, they're doing the right thing now, comes forward, they're going to be able to say, on this date, we met with this person and this person. These are the emails you want to look for.
Last summer, Canada Bread was fined $50 million after pleading guilty to 4 counts of price fixing under the Competition Act. Despite that, some believe the Competition Bureau needs to do more.
The investigation is still ongoing after 9 years, and we still have 4 companies left that are denying their involvement.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is calling for higher fines than what the Canada Bread Company paid. Singh says it was like somebody stealing $50 from you and giving you back just 5 cents. Michael Couture, CTV News, Ottawa.
The Prime Minister held a high-level meeting on the Alberta wildfires and says every federal agency is coordinated sending resources to Jasper.
The situation is precarious after a wildfire entered the town, burning structures in its path. CTV's Jeremy Thompson reports.
This is a devastating day for one of Canada's most iconic tourist destinations. The images coming out of the town site today are difficult to look at. Much of the main areas of Jasper are burned to the ground. The province says 30 to 50% of the town is gone. Homes, hotels, businesses, churches. The situation reached a critical point yesterday afternoon when the larger of two wildfires was pushed towards Jasper from the south by strong winds, causing flames up to 100 meters high, traveling 5 kilometers in half an hour. All first responders, except for firefighters and some incident commanders, were evacuated as the fire approached the town, reaching Jasper just before 7 p.m. We're told every effort was made to protect the town, but they were largely unsuccessful. Helicopters dropping water on the fire was ineffective. It was too dangerous for water bombers to fly, and the bulldozers that were planning to build a fire break along the southern edge of the town were unable to complete that work before being evacuated. Premier Danielle Smith was holding back tears at a press conference earlier today, updating the public on the damage, saying Jasper is a source of pride for Alberta and her government will be there to rebuild so residents and visitors can continue to experience the magic of the national park.
For many generations, the town of Jasper and the parks surrounding it have been a source of pride. With some of the most beautiful scenery in the entire in the world. Our grandparents visited to experience the majesty of this place with its mountains and lakes and meadows.
25,000 people were evacuated successfully from the national park and the town site, and there are no reports of any injuries. Meantime, the firefight continues as crews from 34 communities have arrived in Jasper to help fight this fire, and the focus has now shifted from wildfire fighting to protecting as many structures and critical infrastructure as possible. Reporting from near Hinton, Jeremy Thompson, CTV News.
Ontario's Ministry of Natural Resources says it has already deployed 176 fire management personnel and 2 helicopters to Alberta to help fight the fires. Teams have headed west in 2 groups, one earlier this month from Sudbury and one just yesterday from Dryden. Premier Doug Ford said today he is devastated to see the impacts of the wildfires in Jasper. He added, Ontario, quote, stands with our friends in Alberta, and the province is sending anyone and anything it can to help.
Criminal companies are setting up shop here in Canada to launch elaborate pyramid schemes around the world. CTV's Adrian Gobriel is part of a team of journalists who've been working on this investigation.
It looks much like any other office building in Markham, Ontario. But in one shared space, our investigation reveals it's the location used for 97 money service companies. And there's little evidence any of them ever did business here or that they were even actual tenants.
My name's Adrian Gobriel. I'm with CTV National News.
Inside, a manager whose identity we're protecting alleges that there's a list of criminal companies who've listed this unit as their registered business address.
Fraudulent people know that business centers are easy prey because they can use that address and it's a legitimate registered business address, but they're not paying to use it. But we can't keep track of the people that are using it.
One company using the address, Metaverse Foreign Exchange, also known as MTFE. It had the veneer of a legitimate online trading platform. It was even registered with Canada's money laundering watchdog, FinTrack. Multiple MTFE transactions went through Binance, a global cryptocurrency exchange company. In a statement to CTV News, Binance writes that during the initial phase of MTFE, the app managed to gain a rating of 4.1 out of 5 on the Google Play Store with over 24,000 reviews, and that the MTFE application was even made available on the Apple App Store. In August of 2023, the Canadian company's platform went offline, leaving hundreds of thousands of investors in Sri Lanka and Bangladesh in the dark. An estimate of more than $2 billion vanished. Government lobbyist Sasha Caldera believes Canada is years behind other countries when it comes to anti-money laundering legislation.
We've had this backdoor open where you can incorporate as easily as possible and you can skirt beneficial ownership laws by being a foreign company. So this has to stop and we need to shut this down.
New regulations have given FinTrack the power to do criminal background checks. We tracked down Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland at an event in Markham, of all places. How do you believe these criminal MSB corporations who are stealing hundreds of millions of dollars reflect on our country?
I think your question is an important one. I think we do have more work to do here in Canada, both in terms of ensuring that we have the tools we need to crack down on fraud and money laundering.
Money service business insiders we spoke with say that the companies we've uncovered here in Canada are run by international organized crime groups. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, Toronto.
In Washington, Israel's prime minister visited the White House today at a time of growing pressure for an end to the war in Gaza.
I want to thank you for 50 years of public service and 50 years of support for the state of Israel.
The White House says Joe Biden would use the meeting to repeat calls for a ceasefire deal that would bring home the remaining hostages. The U.S. president and Benjamin Netanyahu met with families of American hostages after their meeting. Netanyahu also held talks with Vice President Kamala Harris today. He addressed a joint session of Congress yesterday.
Canadian and American fighter jets were deployed when Chinese and Russian military planes were detected near Alaska. NORAD says the 4 planes were tracked flying over international waters yesterday. Officials say they were not seen as a threat, but illustrates the growing cooperation between Beijing and Moscow in the Arctic region. The planes were flying in the North American U.S. Air Defense Identification Zone. It's an area beyond American and Canadian airspace that requires aircraft to be identified for national security reasons.
An extended stay by 2 astronauts at the International Space Station will continue until further notice.
We don't have a major announcement today relative to a return date. We're making great progress, but we're just not quite ready to do that.
The test pilots were supposed to return to Earth in mid-June after a week-long visit, but thruster failures and helium leaks on the new Starliner capsule has prompted NASA and Boeing to keep them up longer. Engineers are still working on the problems. There are contingency options for the return voyage if needed, such as SpaceX's Dragon capsule.
The Canadian women's soccer teams pulled off a win in their opening match at the Paris Olympics.
But it comes in the wake of allegations that members of the coaching staff were spying on the New Zealand team during practice. CTV's Beth McDonnell with fan reaction to the fallout.
It's a dark cloud hanging over the win. Accusations that Canada's women's team used a drone to spy on opponent New Zealand ahead of their opening match at the Paris Games.
It's a total embarrassment. We're known as a nation of being fair, and we destroyed that with one move.
At Real Sports in downtown Toronto, fans following the drama are hoping Canada can move past the allegations. At this first game, after trailing for most of the first half, Canada was victorious over New Zealand 2-1.
I have heard reports that it does happen a lot. So, you know, although it could be pretty common for teams to do this and spy on each other, you know, I think the fact that Canada got caught and, you know, they're suffering the consequences is unfortunate.
Those are heavy allegations. Obviously, removing the coach is a big deal, especially with the reigning gold medal champions. That's worrisome, but I think the girls will overcome. Yeah.
The spying allegations stem from Monday and last Friday when drones flew over New Zealand's team practice. 2 members of the Canadian team, analyst Joseph Lombardi and assistant coach Jasmine Mander, have been sent home, and head coach Bev Priestman removed herself from this match. The decision showing ethical leadership, says this sports researcher.
There's a lot of speculation over whether she had any idea about that. Should a leader know everything about their team that goes on? I think that's a difficult stance to take.
So far, the Canadian Olympic Committee says the IOC does not have a pending investigation. It says New Zealand has registered a complaint to FIFA and asked that no points be given to Canada if they won the match. Some felt watching the game, Canada's players weren't connecting the way they normally do.
It has to be a bit of a distraction. The sad thing is the team has kind of gotten used to dealing with distractions. They had it last year heading into the World Cup, dealing with battles with Canada Soccer.
Edging out a win despite the scandal that has many wondering what will happen next. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Still ahead, advocating for access to the waterfront, one man's efforts to get the ball rolling on change.
And I'm Pat Ford. Coming up on Consumer Alert, the summer concert season is well underway with many acts touring the GTA. A major concert set for next week just had to change its lineup due to an illness, and one concert goer is shocked he's not allowed to get a refund. I'll have that story. That's just ahead.
clear and sunny is the theme for the next few days. Lots of sunshine expected. The weekend is also looking very sunny. If the kids have camp tomorrow, things are going to be good. Lots of sunshine, sunny, and comfortable. We'll give you a look at the long-range forecast right after the break.
Welcome back. Many big-name artists are making stops in Toronto as part of their tours this summer, including some bands that had major hits in the 80s and 90s.
A major concert is planned for the Rogers Centre next Friday, but the lineup recently changed after one of the bands had to drop out. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Nathan and Natalie. Heart is a band with many hits and a loyal following, but they had to drop out of next week's show due to singer Ann Wilson announcing she has a major health issue. Some fans who bought tickets are surprised they're not allowed to get a refund. Sisters Ann and Nancy Wilson make up the band Heart, which has been active since the 1970s and sold over 50 million records worldwide.
I wanted to see Heart very, very badly. I'd never seen them in all these years.
Paul Lachey of Toronto is a huge fan and bought tickets to see them as part of the Summer Stadium Tour, which also features Def Leppard and Journey.
Heart.
But unfortunately, lead singer Ann Wilson had to cancel her involvement in the concert, as well as other upcoming shows, as she undergoes treatment for cancer. She told her fans she hopes to be back on tour next year. After Heart dropped out, the promoter for the Toronto show added the band Cheap Trick to take their place.
I was very angry. The way I was looking at it, basically, Ticketmaster was trying to pull a cheap trick on me.
Lachey says while he wishes Ann Wilson well, he is on a fixed income and wants his money back for the $140 tickets.
It's unfair. It's unfair. And all I'm asking for is a refund.
Sometimes when, for whatever reason, one of the bands can't attend and has to cancel, it's a promoter's worst nightmare.
Music industry expert Eric Alper says a promoter would have to issue refunds if a headliner cancels a show, but says for an opening act, they only need to find a comparable band to fill the spot.
Because the show is still going on, the show is still happening, and in their eyes, they're putting together something of value as well.
Ticketmaster's website says opening acts are subject to change or cancellation at any time without notice. No refund will be owed if an opening act or festival performer is changed or canceled. Still, after we reached out to Ticketmaster on Lachey's behalf, he was given a full refund.
I just want to say thank you very much to CTV News, Pat Foran. You guys handled the situation great, and I'm grateful.
And when buying tickets for a concert or any event, it's a good idea to check the refund policy, as many will differ. Promoters in different cities and venues may have their own rules for when a refund should apply. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Okay, it's not quite Friday yet, but as we head into the weekend, the forecast is looking fabulous.
It's looking great. We had a lot of rain over, a couple days ago, also last week, Tuesday. But for the next few days, no rain, lots of sunshine, and also very comfortable conditions. Not a lot of humidity either.
Feels like a thing of the past.
Yeah.
We're behind it.
Yeah, it's just great. And also there's lots happening this weekend as well, so the timing is perfect. Let's take a look at our satellite radar. You can see the conditions are pretty much nothing much going on. There's a few clouds to the north and to the east and a few pop-up showers here and there. Right now, conditions are very comfortable. 21 degrees in Wyerton, 24 in Toronto, 23 in Kingston, and that's pretty much where we should be at this time of year. Things will cool down a bit overnight, but not too cool. 15 in Toronto, 11 in Peterborough, 14 in Kingston. Again, that's typical for this time of year. And then for tomorrow, the highs 27 in Toronto, 26 in Peterborough, 26 in Waterloo. And that trend of warmth is going to continue over the next few days as we gradually and steadily go up. For tomorrow, Friday, something to look forward to. Lots of sunshine, the high 27 degrees. For Saturday, 28's the high, and for Sunday, the same thing. Lots of sunshine, really no rain in the forecast and not too humid. It's going to feel a bit warmer on Sunday, but not out of control. For Monday, going into next week, there's a slight chance of rain, though you don't see it there, some clouds. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, there's again a chance of showers. But again, look at those highs, 28 and 29 for Tuesday and Wednesday. And then for Thursday, we do expect some showers, but it's not going to be a washout, the high 30 degrees. So again, that trend over the next few days, lots of sunshine and the temperatures gradually going up as we wind down the month of July.
Okay, looks like a perfect weekend ahead. Coming up on CTV News, protecting the public from RSV. We'll tell you who now qualifies for the vaccine for the virus a little later in the show.
It's a popular place for many in the summer, but those living with disabilities say accessing Lake Ontario is no easy feat, especially since the closure of Ontario Place.
Today, one man took his water-based rehab regimen to a downtown fountain, hoping it might attract some attention to the plight of those who can't easily access the lake. CTV's Scott Lightfoot has the story.
It was an unusual sight outside the courthouse on University Ave this afternoon.
I have to use these fountains. It's my only choice. It's kind of silly when you think about it.
Call it equal parts physiotherapy and protest. Steve Mann is a professor at the University of Toronto. He's also recovering from a back injury, and as part of his recovery, he was told to try waterballing. His first thought was the lake.
But there's nowhere I can get my ball in because they've closed Ontario Place. There's 4 wheelchair ramps at beaches, but those ramps don't go all the way into the water.
Mann says public pools won't allow access with inflatables, and without the options that previously existed at Ontario Place, lake access is next to impossible.
Toronto's the biggest city on the Great Lakes, so we should be a role model of stewardship for freshwater access. But there is nowhere in the city of Toronto where someone with disabilities can launch a kayak or an exercise ball into the water.
And so he's come here to this fountain to work on his rehabilitation.
It's really good for the spine if anybody has back injuries. A lot of times I get up in the morning, I can't stand up, I need my walker. But then if I can get the right spinal stability exercises.
Mann, who ran for mayor in the last election on a platform that included improving access to the lake and keeping Ontario Place public, hopes that by taking his rehab routine to public spaces, it might encourage the public and elected officials to think about ensuring access to the water for all.
There are a lot of people with disabilities who can't any longer get into the water. And it's a real crime because Lake Ontario should be accessible to people in Toronto, and yet it isn't.
Until then, you may see him waterballing wherever he can around the city. Scott Lightfoot, CTV News.
A special charity swim will take place this weekend across Lake Muskoka, raising awareness of the power of organ donations. The annual 30-kilometer swim has raised over $100,000 over 9 years to send children to Camp Kavita. It offers a summer camp experience to children who've received organ transplants and those living with organ failure. Taking part in the organ donor swim will be Jefferson Hall, who received a liver transplant in 2020. But that's not all. He'll be swimming alongside Tim Marshall, the living donor who provided him with the life-saving gift.
My main goal is just to, participate and celebrate and the camaraderie in and around the giving community, the gift of life. I'm looking forward to high-fiving and handing off with the other people celebrating, and hopefully I'm in conjunction with my donor as well. I think that'll be pretty special. Beyond that, just celebrating each and every stroke and breath and really living life.
Saturday's swim is also geared at promoting presumed consent for organ donations and a living organ donor registry.
The province is planning a new push to reduce hospitalizations during the colder months from the respiratory virus RSV. While many people can fight off the respiratory virus, it does pose a higher risk to infants and the elderly. Starting this fall, the province will fund RSV vaccination for all newborns and high-risk children of up to 24 months of age. Pregnant women will also get access to a shot that protects their infants from birth to 6 months of age. National advisors have strongly recommended RSV vaccines for those above age 75 and said those above 60 should consider one.
A 2-year-old giraffe at the Toronto Zoo has died. This is video of Matu, a Maasai giraffe, shortly after he was born in 2022. The zoo says Matu stopped breathing while under general anesthesia during a castration procedure, which was done to allow him to remain alongside his mother and sister instead of being isolated. The zoo says that staff had prepared for the procedure for months and are heartbroken. A necropsy will be performed to determine the cause of death.
In Hollywood, a wrongful termination lawsuit from actress Gina Carano against Disney and Lucasfilm is apparently moving forward. Carano had sued Disney over her high-profile firing from its Star Wars streaming series, The Mandalorian, back in 2021. The company said at the time that she had made aberrant and unacceptable social media posts insulting people based on their cultural and religious identities. Disney argued it had a First Amendment right to choose employees who properly convey their values. Deadline reports a judge refused to throw out the case Wednesday, putting it on track for a trial or settlement. Disney hasn't commented.
Taylor Swift Way is coming to Toronto as City Council votes in favor of temporarily renaming parts of downtown.
A celebration of South Asian culture. The Bollywood Monster Mash takes over Celebration Square in Mississauga, and we'll give you a taste of what to expect.
That's on the next CP24 Breakfast, where Toronto gets its everything every morning.
That bicycle exited the bike lane and continued traveling westbound. At that same time, a dump truck was also traveling westbound, struck that cyclist.
Updating our top stories, a woman cyclist was killed when she was hit by a dump truck downtown today. The circumstances of the tragedy are being investigated, but a construction bin that was blocking what appears to be the bike lane and the right-hand turning lane will be part of the investigation.
If you provide your service, make it more permeable, then you don't you pay less, right? Whereas if you do nothing and your parking lot become parking lake, then you should take some responsibility.
Toronto's mayor is mulling having commercial property owners pay up if they don't take steps to limit flooding. Olivia Chow is asking for a report by the end of the year on ways to be better prepared for torrential downpours like the one the city saw last week.
They're heavy allegations. Obviously, removing the coach is a big deal, especially with the reigning gold medal champions. That's worrisome, but I think the girls will overcome.
Canada's women's soccer team won their first Olympic match today, 2-1 over New Zealand. But a lot of the talk was about accusations Canadian staffers used drones to spy on the opponent before the match. The two members were sent home.
Remember to keep up to date day and night through our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca, and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
The great sell-off in tech stocks eased up a bit this morning, but markets ended up down again. Andrew Bell of B&M Bloomberg has the latest in business.
Hello there. Investors in technology companies who have seen their market darlings slipping this month got a bit of relief in early trading after the U.S. posted strong Q2 economic growth. Chipmaker Nvidia edged higher, but then fell 2% on the day. Tesla managed a 2% gain. Other tech names, such as Microsoft and Advanced Micro Devices, slipped as investors continued to rotate into smaller companies. The tech-stuffed NASDAQ composite has now dropped almost 8% from its July 10th high. Shares in Lululemon fell to their lowest level in 4 years. The company has paused sales of its breeze-through yoga wear to, quote, make any adjustments necessary to deliver the best possible product experience. Morgan Stanley warned that the halt removes a key revenue driver for the company. Barron's says that the breeze-through line, made with lightweight fabric, was designed for hot yoga on broiling summer days. But online users have chafed at the V-shaped back seam and a tighter than usual elastic around the waist. And finally, Loblaw and its parent company, George Weston, have struck a $500 million deal to resolve class action lawsuits relating to their role in an alleged industry-wide bread price-fixing arrangement that occurred between 2001 and 2015. Of the money, $96 million was previously paid to customers of Loblaw under a card program. Loblaw chairman Galen Weston said, "We are sorry for the price-fixing behavior we discovered and self-reported." The class action plaintiffs are still going after Walmart Canada, Sobeys, Metro, and Giant Tiger. All four retailers told B&N Bloomberg today they had no involvement in any price rigging. And finally, let's have a look at the markets. The Canadian dollar was at 72.34 US cents, down a fraction. West Texas Intermediate oil traded at $78.28, up 69 cents. Western Canadian Select oil was at $61.14, up 67 cents. And the TSX Composite ended the day at 22,608.03, down just over 31 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Bombardier is playing catch-up after a strike earlier this month, but it says it does not expect the 11 days of lost production to affect its annual guidance. The company says it delivered 39 aircraft last quarter, and it views the deal reached with workers as a fair solution that supports its long-term goals. Bombardier says supply chain issues continue to be a headwind, but it brought in a profit of $19 million US as revenue is up 32% year over year.
And investors are bracing for stormy seas when it comes to parts of the leisure travel market like cruises. Royal Caribbean said it would pay out a dividend of 40 cents per share to let stockholders share in on some of the recent windfall from strong travel demand. Royal Caribbean also said booking interest is remaining steady into next year. That being said, the company's shares slid around 7% today on concerns revenue growth might drop as prices rise.
Well, Toronto is officially preparing to roll out the red carpet for Taylor Swift.
City Council has authorized some special changes to the downtown core for the singer's visit this fall.
I'll be your host this evening. My name is Taylor, and welcome to the Eras Tour.
Taylor Swift's Eras Tour takes over the Rogers Centre for 6 sold-out shows spread across 2 weeks in November. For that entire month, the route between Nathan Phillips Square and the venue will be renamed Taylor Swift Way. The change will come with special temporary street signs. Deputy Mayor Jennifer McKelvey says the sign costs will be paid for by a private company and then go to a good cause.
We want everybody to know that the signs will be donated to the Daily Bread Food Bank so that they can be auctioned off in support of their organization. We know Taylor donates to food banks in the city she's touring in. This is our way to follow her lead.
The motion also authorized turning the Toronto sign red and taking a closer look at the anticipated economic impact of Swift's visit. As city officials say, they are ready for it. Councillors approved the motion 21 votes to 1.
As Toronto commuters wonder when the Eglinton Crosstown LRT will get a firm opening date, transit officials tell CTV News they are still unable to provide one. The east-west line was originally slated to open in 2020, but has faced years of delays linked to the pandemic and other complications. Metrolink says it's working through its testing and commissioning phase to identify and deal with any issues so the future Line 5 runs safely and reliably. The provincial agency says it's also securing occupancy permits, testing trains, and training TTC staff. As for an opening date, officials suggested one will be shared with the public when they're confident key milestones are being met.
The Toronto Blue Jays were looking to win their series against Detroit at Rogers Centre this afternoon.
3-2. Hit well right field, way back, and that ball is into the upper deck.
And things went downhill from there. The Tampa Bay Rays had 16 hits to beat Toronto 13-0. Jays third baseman Ernie Clement pitched the 9th inning and gave up a run on 2 hits. Toronto hosts Texas on Friday.
Less than 24 hours now to the opening ceremony for the Paris Olympics, and we now know who Canadian tennis players will be facing in the first round. Bianca Andreescu will take on Denmark's Clara Tauson, ranked 63rd in the world. The 2019 U.S. Open champion from Mississauga is playing in her first Olympics since having to withdraw from the Tokyo Games. Leylah Fernandez faces a tough opening match. The 16th seed from Laval, Quebec, plays 2023 French Open finalist Karolina Muchova of Czechia. In the men's draw, Felix Auger-Aliassime opens against American Marcos Giron. The Montrealer has won 3 of the 4 previous matches against him, and Thornhill's Milos Raonic will face Dominik Kopfer of Germany. It's the second Olympic Games for Raonic. The first round match schedule will be announced tomorrow. Just ahead, counting down to the Caribbean Carnival. Toronto police cut the ribbon at the kickoff. Stay with us. The countdown is on ahead of one of the biggest events of the city's cultural calendar, the Toronto Caribbean Carnival.
Today, Toronto police held their annual kickoff celebration. The event began with a pan rendition of O Canada performed by Love Sound. The theme of this year's celebration is It Takes a Village. Toronto Police Chief Myron Demkew said he was pleased to relocate the annual event from police headquarters to the Eastview Neighborhood Community Centre.
As some of you know, every year since 1991, the Toronto Police Service has hosted a Caribbean Carnival event to celebrate the cultural heritage and diversity of the people from the Caribbean, the many islands of the Caribbean, and the spirit that they contribute to the rich fabric of Canadian culture.
The event also featured a performance from the Mwendo dance group and was followed up by a children's parade. There are several other celebrations taking place ahead of the Grand Parade on Saturday, August 3rd.
It's going to feel like we're in the Caribbean.
Yeah, exactly.
Over the next few days.
We do have a beautiful weekend ahead. Do you want to recap the forecast for us?
Yeah, a nice run of sun. Let's show you the satellite radar first. Actually, we're going to get right to the 7-day forecast. So for tomorrow, lots of sunshine, the high 27 degrees. And then look at Saturday and Sunday, a great weekend to look forward to. Nice and warm with a bit of humidity, but not too much. Next week on Monday, there could be some rain, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we do expect it. But just the general theme is a run of sun for the next few days, and then possible rain. But the temperature is consistent in the 28 to 30 degree range. So really nice, warm temperatures if you like the heat.
Can't wait. We'll be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Sean Lathong with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a good night.